All right, everybody, welcome into Black and Gold Breakdown, day 3 of Steelers training camp. Today, going to dive into who stole the show, who's looking really good, and what's going on with the quarterback position. Russell Wilson not practicing again today. But welcome in, everybody. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do that. Almost at 1,200. I think we're like one away from 1,200 now, which is pretty cool. So if you want to subscribe, that would be great. A lot of NFL content. So if that's your cup of tea, absolutely hop on. Day 3 at Steelers camp. The biggest story being that Roman Wilson had a very nice day, in particular on a slot fade during team drills, being paired up against Beanie Bishop, getting a nice 25-yard catch. He's running with the first team as well, so there seems to be some big plans in the works for Roman Wilson. And it's good to hear that he was having a good day in Latrobe throughout the offseason program. Didn't have many highs, didn't have many lows. It was just kind of, a run-of-the-mill offseason program for him. But today was very opposite of run-of-the-mill. He stood out in a very good way, which is good to hear. Like I said, had the big catch against Beanie Bishop. And then according to Nick Farabaugh, got open on a 10-yard out. So good to hear that Roman Wilson is looking really good in camp. Mason McCormick also having a nice day, which is good to hear from a 4th-round rookie. They gave Isaac Samalo a vet day off. So that meant that Mason McCormick got a few more chances with the first team and just more chances in general to be on the field. And while running an outside zone, Jalen Warren basically ran right behind Mason McCormick for a nice gain. Talking to McCormick throughout during OTAs, I asked him what the Steelers were, kind of planning for him in terms of where they were gonna, plan on playing him, where they were working him out. He said that they're working him on both the right and left side. So with Samalo being out, they have McCormick on the left side. So obviously James Daniels being on the right side. So nice to hear that Mason McCormick, the rookie 4th-round pick out of South Dakota State, having a nice day. And then Joey Porter Jr. Having a really as well. We got to see more of Joey Porter versus George Pickens. Obviously, that was the big thing last year was, the rising star receiver and then the rookie cornerback. Now it is the established very good receiver against the established very good cornerback. And the Steelers, iron sharpens iron type situation. We're going to have that for Pittsburgh throughout the duration of camp. So Patrick Queen posted on his Instagram story saying that same thing. He posted a picture of him and Pat Freiermuth battling for a ball, and said, iron sharpens iron. And then Pat Freiermuth reposted it on his Instagram as well. So a lot of good camaraderie being built in the first few days of training camp for Pittsburgh. And the bigger story has been the big story since training camp started. No Russell Wilson again today. They didn't have him yesterday either. He's not rushing back from this. Again, it's feeling the soreness in his calf. They're being pretty cautious about it. Whatever the severity of it may be, again, doesn't seem worried about it in the least. They're just being very, very cautious about, not rushing him back, not turning it into something more serious. And they seem to be pretty content with, the way in which they are going about it. But Justin Fields has taken advantage of that over the past few days. Obviously had that long touchdown pass to Van Jefferson, had a nice connection with George Pickens. And then today hit Connor Hayward on a nice big gain over the middle of the field. And that's one thing that's getting people excited too, is the fact that Pittsburgh's utilizing the middle of the field, right? It's something that we haven't seen a ton of over the past few seasons, especially with Canada being the offensive coordinator, Pickett being the quarterback, Trubisky. It just wasn't something that was, they didn't use it. And so the fact that Fields has had multiple big completions thus far in training camp over the middle of the field, that's a good sign for things to come. And the fact that Fields has looked good has also been a really big takeaway so far from camp? Because I know a lot of people, I talked about it on CBS radio yesterday. A lot of people, were just looking at this thing as a competition in name only. Didn't think that Justin Fields was actually going to get a legitimate chance to win the job. And while Mike Tomlin was pretty adamant that, Russ is on pole position, he's also said multiple times that Fields is going to get the chance to compete. And 3 days in, he's looked really good. And even if those thoughts of this being a competition in name only were true, Fields has definitely at least made a good case for himself to be like, yeah, I'm here and I'm going to compete for this job. I think Brooke Pryor had a really good analogy on ESPN yesterday where, since Tomlin loves to do that pole position analogy, if we're talking about this in terms of a race, and I'm paraphrasing what she said, but, this is like if, in a race where, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson are going around the track and Russell Wilson has to make an unexpected pit stop. Justin Fields has gained a few seconds on Russell Wilson, but he hasn't surpassed him in the first 3 days of camp. And we wouldn't expect him to surpass him in the first 3 days of training camp. But the fact that he's looked good, that's certainly not nothing for the Steelers. That's good to hear. Van Jefferson also, the fact that they're getting productive plays out of these guys, because, a lot of people were worried about the receiver position, myself included. But, when you see Van Jefferson having, a nice catch, or you see Calvin Austin continuing to build off the good offseason program that he had and bring that into training camp, and then Roman Wilson today having a really nice day, it brings more confidence into the group as a whole. And Omar Khan said, it was on the first day of camp, that, we're not rushing into, making a trade for a receiver. There's nothing in the works right now in terms of a trade for a receiver. And yeah, you take those things with a grain of salt, because even if there was something in the works, he's not going to come out and tell us if there is something, that's being done behind the scenes. But if Roman Wilson continues to look good, Calvin Austin continues to look good, then perhaps they'll go the route of trying to make Roman Wilson the other outside guy opposite of George Pickens, and work Calvin Austin more into the starting slot role as well. So that's something to monitor. What's up, Jared? Dante Jackson has been balling out. Dante Jackson, everything that I've seen, he's looked terrific, which is great to hear. Especially yesterday, had a nice pass breakup downfield, paired up one-on-one with George Pickens. Even that, a lot of people were not satisfied with the, basic player for player Deontay Johnson for Dante Jackson trade. And I was one of those people. I was like, okay, Steelers needed a cornerback. They got one. They weren't going to bring back Deontay Johnson anyway after this season. They got something for him rather than just let him walk. I'm cool with that. Because had they not made that deal, there would be a massive hole opposite of Joey Porter Jr. right now, where you'd have to figure out, okay, is it going to be Corey Trice? Is it going to be Darius Rush? Would they have kept around Patrick Peterson? My guess is probably. So I was very okay with the Deontay Johnson trade from day one. I'm still very okay with it. And as Dante Jackson keeps, looking really good in camp, the better that trade looks. Because, yes, Deontay Johnson's a very good receiver. And I wish him well in Carolina. But they weren't going to bring him back. And they got something for him rather than lose him after the season for nothing. And if you're the Steelers, you'd like to have at least one more receiver, one more proven receiver on the outside. And we'll see if they end up doing something like that. But for right now, hey, you've got a very good young corner in Joey Porter Jr., who's already proven himself to be one of the best perimeter corners in football. And now you have a very good number 2 cornerback, where last year you did not have that. Because Patrick Peterson and Levi Wallace were both bad last year. And that impacted the Steelers. Even in the games they won, like go back and watch the Raiders game. Devontae Adams ate them alive. And in week 1 against the 49ers, Brandon Ayuk had a field day. So I don't think that the Steelers view their current situation nearly as bad as it was a year ago. It's much better than it was a year ago. So now you have Joey Porter Jr. as your solidified number 1 and Dante Jackson as your solidified number 2, who I think is going to be a very similar like Steven Nelson, where, okay, he's not the 1, but he's one of the best number 2s in the league. It's very rare you have 2 guys at cornerback who can be legit number 1s. The Jets probably have that right now. Like Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed could both probably be 1s. Sauce Gardner, obviously, but DJ Reed's very good. The Jaguars had that. Those mid-2010s teams with Jalen Ramsey and AJ Bouye. The Panthers thought that they were going to have that with C.J. Henderson and Stephon Gilmore. Obviously, C.J. Henderson didn't work out. He is now in Houston. But the point being, it's pretty rare to have 2 number 1 corners. And right now the Steelers have a very good number 1 and they have a very good number 2. And from the sounds of it, they're going to have a really good nickel because Beanie Bishop, he looked great in OTAs. Got to see that up close and personal and minicamp as well. Haven't been down to training camp yet, but everything that, all the really good people who are friends of this channel, whether it be Aaron Becker, Nick Farabaugh, Aaron Saunders, Chris Carter, all of them have said Beanie Bishop looking good. He's ran with the 1s, which is great. So they have their secondary right now is night and day better than it was last year, and that's good to see. What's going on, man? Thank you so much for watching. What do you think about Wilson being held out? He looks like he wants to practice bad. Yeah, Mike Tomlin said that, on the first day. He's like, Russ said I can still go, but they're just being extremely cautious with it. And again, there's no harm to that. It's, the first week of camp, and you're preventing any sort of risk for Russ getting any sort of bad injury, and you're getting to see what Justin Fields looks like with the 1s. So I don't think that there's a loss here. I think that, I'm sure Russ does want to practice. He was going through stretches and stuff today, so I think he's pretty close to coming back. They're just being extremely cautious about it because they don't want anything bad to happen, which I completely understand. Because how many times we see it every year, and we're going to see it this year. We've already seen it in Minnesota where they lost one of their starting cornerbacks for the year to a torn ACL. So the Steelers don't want to be one of those teams who just loses somebody, especially loses their quarterback in training camp because they rushed him back in the first week. So I'm not worried about it. I think it's a win-win where, Russ has no risk of getting injured while he's not practicing, and Justin Fields gets to run with the 1s and get some reps in with that unit. So not worried about it. Russell Wilson doesn't seem worried about it at all. Steelers don't seem worried about it. This is very much just a precautionary type of thing. And not too worried about it. I think it's better safe than sorry in this situation. Again, it's the first week of camp. The pads aren't even on yet. So I'm not worried about it. I think it's, like I said, better safe than sorry. So we'll see when Russ gets back. Hopefully it's soon. And when he does, looking forward to seeing what he looks like. Both of these guys are going to play in the preseason, which is good. And I hope that, we'll see both of them in an extended role when that time comes. Beanie Bishop before Fautano is a first round. Whenever when I was at OTAs and minicamp, seeing him up close and personal, man, I came up before they signed Cam Sutton. I was like, don't be surprised if Beanie Bishop is the starter week 1. And so far, it looks like he has every chance imaginable to be the starter week 1. So enjoying seeing him play well. Again, that's a guy who shouldn't have gone undrafted. He was a consensus All-American at West Virginia last year. Led the nation in passes broken up, had 4 interceptions. So the fact that he somehow fell through the cracks is going to be one of those cases where everybody looks back and is going to be like, how did we not draft him? So he's looked very good throughout the offseason, looking really good in camp. And that's very good to see. So, looking forward to seeing. There's a lot of guys that I can't wait to see in preseason. Obviously, you want to see the stars. It'll be okay, Watt's back, everything, all that. But Beanie Bishop and Peyton Wilson are probably the two guys I'm most excited to see. Peyton Wilson's already one of my favorite Steelers. Like, just talking to him and seeing his passion for this, he just feels like a Steeler. And I'm very excited to see him playing alongside Patrick Queen and Landon Roberts. That's going to be very fun. Beanie Bishop, though, playing between Dante Jackson and Joey Porter Jr. in the nickel, I think he has a chance to be very good. Similar to Mike Hilton, who I believe Mike Hilton went undrafted as well. So every chance that Beanie Bishop can be the starter week one. I think he's absolutely making the team. I mean, the fact that they're already putting that much trust in him, he's definitely going to make the team. But watch out for Beanie Bishop to be the starter week one. 41 days until kickoff. Hey, we got less than a week until a football game's played. I know it's only preseason and everything, but in 5 days, there's going to be a football game on television, and I will be watching. I'm going to be snuggled in. I'm going to get wings. It's going to be I cannot wait for the Hall of Fame game. And if you guys watched the latest edition of the Pump Fake with me and my buddy Matt Verderam from Sports Illustrated, we talked about it briefly. And he's like, I'm not going to watch the Hall of Fame game. I don't watch the Hall of Fame. I was like, what are you talking about, man? Like, it's an event for me. For somebody who just is obsessed with this and is very lucky to do it for a living, I can't wait. Am I going to... Now, the Texans are going to be playing in the Hall of Fame game, so maybe I'll be able to do something, written-wise about the Texans. See if I can find any sort of takeaways or a story to write about from that for the Sporting News. So we'll see. That's going to be... I'm very excited for the Hall of Fame game. Odds are none of the stars are going to play. They never do. So it'll probably be Davis Mills against Tyson Bagent. But don't care. Can't wait. I'm very excited for everything about the Hall of Fame game. Am I going to gamble on the Hall of Fame game? There's a fat chance I might. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what it brings. But I'm very excited for it. Very, very excited. I like Bishop. No hate at all. I just want Fautano and Broderick over Dam. Oh, absolutely. I like to think that this whole, making Fautanu earn it thing is just a formality. But after last year, man, I'm not ruling anything out. I've talked about it a lot. And I talked about it on the radio yesterday where it was like, Dan Moore's not good because you drafted tackles in the first round in consecutive seasons. So why do we keep doing this Dan Moore thing when he's not good? You didn't draft Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu because you think Dan Moore's awesome. You drafted Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu because Dan Moore stinks. So how about we just stop with the whole formality stuff and just acknowledge, okay, Broderick Jones is going to be the starter at left tackle. Troy Fautanu is going to be the starter at right tackle. That's what it is because Dan Moore's not very good. Dan Moore's a very lovely guy from all accounts that I've heard. I have not talked to him one-on-one, but I've heard he's a tremendous dude. But just from a football perspective, he's not very good. And the Steelers know that because they drafted to replace him 2 years in a row. It's the most annoying thing about the Steelers. Annoying thing about football in general. I mean, the Steelers aren't the only team who do this type of thing. But being a Steelers fan, like having to deal with this stupidity, they're doing the same thing with Zach Frazier, where Nate Herbig is, the first team center right now. I don't expect that to be the case week one. I fully expect Zach Frazier to be the starter. But again, I'm not going to write it in pen because we know how the Steelers are. So I don't care if they're rookies. I saw how Mason Cole played. Zach Frazier is not going to be worse than Mason Cole. And Broderick Jones is a natural left tackle. Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan have talked extensively this offseason about, we drafted Broderick to be a left tackle. So just say, Broderick's a starting left tackle. Troy Fautanu is going to be our starting right tackle. It's not going to make any of these guys work any less hard. You know what I mean? Plenty of guys go into training camp knowing their roles. Think Minkah Fitzpatrick ever goes into training camp worried about his job? No. Think TJ Watt shows up to training camp worried about being replaced? No. But guess what? They're still multiple-time All-Pros because they're really freaking good at football. Troy Fautanu is much better than Dan Moore. Naming him as the starter is not going to all of a sudden make him suck and not care. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Any NFL football is awesome. I get just as excited for preseason. Oh, yeah, me too. Me too. I'll be here watching every single preseason game like a nerd. Now, I will not be gambling on every preseason game because that's a little bit degenerate behavior, but I'll bet on the Hall of Fame game just for fun. And by the way, I don't bet hundreds of dollars on the Hall of Fame game. I'll throw like $10 on like a 3-leg parlay for the Hall of Fame game and hope to win like 40. That would be a good night for me. Hopefully they're trying to boost Moore's trade value for an impending Ayuk trade. I applaud the dedication to thinking that an Ayuk trade will still happen, but it's not gonna. I really just don't think it's going to. I'm sticking to that. That's what I've said for, 4 months now? 3 months now? So I'm not changing up now. Would love it to, but that ship feels like it's very much sailed. So I'm not going to hold my breath on it. But yeah, I want to see if the week 1 lineup isn't Broderick Jones, Isaac Seumalo, Zach Frazier, James Daniels, Troy Fautanu, somebody messed up. Because, again, you drafted tackles in consecutive drafts because you know that Dan Moore isn't good. So why do you keep playing him? It just doesn't make sense. Happy about Roman Wilson, though. Because like I said to start all this, throughout OTA's minicamp, he didn't have a bad offseason program. He just didn't have a great one either. It was just very run-of-the-mill, uneventful, just, to put it frankly. So to see him having a nice day, making some nice catches, that is a very good sign. Running with the first team, again, we're gonna see what they plan to do there. If they plan on having Van Jefferson being the starter outside and Roman Wilson the starter in the slot, or if they end up putting Roman Wilson as the starter on the outside and Calvin Austin in the slot as the starter. So that's all going to get figured out over the next month. And then once week 1 rolls around, we are going to, to really see what that's going to look like. Very excited for it. Cannot believe that July is almost over, man. You remember that Bryant McFadden tweet? That was about 3 months ago. Ain't that crazy? That's absurd. I told you, though. I've said it throughout the offseason. It's going to go by fast. The past 3 NFL offseasons have sped by for me. Completely sped by. It used to feel like it took forever, especially when we were younger. But now, man, it's going by quick. Maybe that's just time going by quicker as I get older. That's certainly starting to feel like a real thing. Heard Justin Fields is okay. Yeah, Justin Fields looked really good. He looked really good. Like I said, he had the nice toss to Van Jefferson downfield, had a nice connection with George Pickens deep over the middle of the field. Today had a 25, 26-yard reception or connection to Connor Hayward. And then had a nice catch or a nice toss to Roman Wilson on a slot fade. I believe that was Justin Fields who threw it. Let me watch the video real quick. I should have put the video on the screen, so my apologies for not doing that. It was Justin Fields who threw it. So, yeah, he's had a really good day. Or he's had a good camp. And that's very good to see. And like I said, somebody had asked, are you worried about Russell Wilson? No, because Russell isn't worried about Russell. Mike Tomlin's not worried about Russell. This is a win-win situation. You make sure that Russ is 100%. You don't rush him back and risk, aggravating some sort of injury and making him miss more time. And you get to see Justin Fields running with the ones. Everybody wins. Keep hearing Muth is making plays all over the field. Pat Freiermuth's going to have a big year. He talked a lot in OTAs and minicamp about how much he loves the new offense because it utilizes tight ends in different ways. And so far in everything that I've seen coming out of camp, he's looked really good. They're utilizing him all over the field, whether it be as, like a slot receiver close to the line of scrimmage in a power slot role, as a traditional tight end, hand in the dirt. Everything that you could use him as, Arthur Smith is doing. So that's incredibly refreshing too, because Matt Canada was just so vanilla and didn't use Pat Freiermuth in a variety of ways as he could, because we know what Pat Freiermuth's strengths are, and that's more so as a receiver and not as a straight up blocker. Once he gets going downhill and is able to find defenders to hit with some speed behind it, then he's pretty solid. But just as a stand up blocking tight end, that's not his strength. He's more of a vertical tight end who is good at blocking when he is has momentum behind him. So I think that we're going to see a lot more of that for Pat Freiermuth this year, while the Steelers utilize Michael Pruitt and Darnell Washington more as the stand-up blockers at tight end. So I think he's going to have a tremendous year. You look at his first 2 years, specifically his rookie year, he was awesome. Up to this point, his rookie year has been his best year. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that Ben Roethlisberger was his quarterback. He had over 60 catches. He had 7 touchdowns. Like, he was a legit threat and looked like he was going to be one of the next great tight ends in football. And then, unfortunately, he was hinged with Kenny Pickett, and that kind of stunted that growth a little bit, or stunted that potential a little bit. And hopefully now with the quarterbacks that Pittsburgh has brought in, they can kind of press resume on Pat Freiermuth becoming one of the better tight ends in football. That would be great to see. But yeah, he looked really good in OTA's minicamp, and everything coming out of camp shows that he's been utilized in a lot of different ways and looks really good. So that is very good to hear, good to see. Like I said a few times this offseason, this is the most I've anticipated and looked forward to a Steelers season in a long time. I was never a Pickett guy. I was very angry draft night when they drafted him, man. Didn't think it was going to be good. I was proven right pretty quickly. A bunch of Steelers dorks on Twitter wanted to fight me about it all the time, saying, "Oh, he's going to be great." No, he's not. So I had to hear for 2 years about how great Kenny Pickett was or was going to be, and I was elated when they traded him. So the past 2 years have been pretty annoying for my fandom, but now I have hope. I don't know if it's Super Bowl hope. Like I said, I got to see at least like a month or so of the season before, I can say, okay, the Steelers can actually make a run. I got to see what the quarterbacks look like before I can say that. But this is a much better team than it was last year, and that team last year still somehow won 10 games and made it to the playoffs. As angry as I was when the Bears traded Fields and drafted this bum we have now, I mean, look, Caleb Williams, I think, is going to be really good. I think Drake May is going to be the best quarterback in this class, but I think Caleb's still going to be good. And I understand why the Bears did it, by the way. Like, I totally get it. Totally get it. Because this regime didn't draft Justin Fields. And they got to basically hit reset on having a quarterback on a rookie deal and building around that quarterback. And they did right by Fields. So tip of the cap to Ryan Poles for that, because he said, look, we're going to do right by Justin. Justin said he wanted to go to Pittsburgh. They made sure he went to Pittsburgh. So tip my cap to the Bears front office for that and the Bears as a whole. And now, they're showing that they're very serious about Caleb Williams and building around him, because immediately they even before they drafted him, they trade for Keenan Allen and they draft Rome Odunze. So now you've got DJ Moore and Odunze on the outside, and Keenan Allen can now age gracefully into being like a second or third option. I think that's really good. And defensively, they have a lot of guys that I really like. Big fan of Jalen Johnson. Steelers fans are ginormous fans of Jalen Johnson. They thought that Pittsburgh was going to trade for him last year. I think that Jaquan Brisker could be a very good safety. And then Montez Sweat, who they acquired from Washington, led them in sacks last year after being acquired at the deadline. So I really like a lot of the pieces that they have there. I think that bringing in Shane Waldron as well at offensive coordinator will be a very big net positive. So I think the Bears are going to be fine. I think best case scenario, like absolute best case scenario, is they surprise some people, win 9 games this year, maybe sneak in as a wild card team. I think a fine scenario is they look really solid. They win 7-8 games, and there's a clear foundation to build off of going into 25. So I think the Bears have a really nice future ahead of them. I think that they'll be okay. Russ named every wide receiver by name except for Des Fitzpatrick. Wonder if he bullied Russ after. Des Fitzpatrick. Yeah, bless Des Fitzpatrick. He's a good dude. And look, that's who Russ is, though. I mean, we kind of joke about how robotic he is, but he's a very attention to detail kind of guy and make sure that everybody, feels important. So credit to him for that. People said Fields was skipping balls to wide receivers and missing guys wide open. I haven't seen anybody say that. Today during 7 shots, he missed Calvin Austin. I don't know how open he was. Like I said, I haven't been to camp yet. I can just only go off of what was said on Twitter and in the reports. But for everything that I've seen, he's looked pretty solid. Now, what I did see throughout OTAs and minicamp is a guy who continuously got better. Because it was obviously like in the first week or so, still figuring things out, trying to get more comfortable. Because it was his first action in Pittsburgh. But by the end of minicamp, he looked really good, looked confident. And so I think that Fields is going to be fine. And in terms of, we've said this a lot this offseason as well, I don't think Russ or Fields are going to automatically become elite quarterbacks. I think that they'll be somewhere around, the 17th to 19th best quarterback in football. But if they are that, that's all the Steelers need them to be. They just need them to be average. They need them to be average starting quarterbacks, perfectly mediocre. That's all. If the defense is as good as its potential, all the Steelers need them to be is mediocre to get to the playoffs. Now, when they get to the playoffs, I don't think that's going to be enough. And eventually they're going to have to find somebody who is more than mediocre. And they're going to have to expect a little bit more from them once the playoffs come, because you're not going to beat Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow with mediocre quarterback play. But for the time being, can they win a playoff game with a really, really good defense and just average quarterback play? Yeah. And I think that's got to be step one, though. Obviously, yes, the Super Bowl is the end goal for every fan base, every team, and everything like that. But going into every year, there's only about 6 to 12 teams that you can make a legit Super Bowl case for, in my opinion. Yeah, there's 32 teams. Not all of them can win a Super Bowl. This year, yeah, there's probably between 8 to 10 teams that you can make a case for. The Steelers aren't one of those, in my opinion. But, A, that doesn't mean that they absolutely won't. And B, I've been wrong before. So, like I said, I'm very excited for the season because I think that they, A, will make it to the playoffs. And I just want a playoff win. Is that too much to ask? Because like I said, that's step one, is get a playoff win. If the Steelers win a playoff game this year, that is a very successful season. So they haven't done that in 8 seasons, 7 seasons, whatever it may be. So that is my expectations. I don't expect a Super Bowl this year, but if they win a playoff game, I'll be ecstatic. Hell, if they go like 11-6 and get into the playoffs, that's even if they wouldn't win the playoff game. Yeah, I'd be really annoyed and bummed, but that would be a nice step in the right direction, winning 11 games and looking good doing it. So those are my expectations for the year for them. Is just get a playoff win. That's all I'm asking. Kenny ranked 40th. We've been crying tears of joy having 17th or 19th ranked quarterback last year. Yeah, that's my point. Like if they have, I don't know, like if they have quarterback play like to the likes of like what Baker Mayfield was last year for the Bucs, great. You can win a playoff game with that. The Buccaneers proved that. They beat the Eagles last year in the playoffs, and damn near beat the Lions. So if they can get Baker Mayfield-esque quarterback play from a season, the dude, that's fine. I will be very happy with that. By the way, shout out Baker Mayfield for his big contract a few months ago. Making big money now. Congratulations to him. If the Chargers struggle, do you think they trade Herbert? No. Justin Herbert's not going anywhere. That is way too much dead money for the Chargers to eat. And that just doesn't make sense as to why the Chargers would do that. Like you have at minimum, one of the 10 best quarterbacks in football. To me, one of the 5 or 6 best quarterbacks in football. That's the hardest thing in sports to find. You already paid him. Why would you trade him? It's not Justin Herbert's fault that the Chargers have sucked. Brandon Staley's fault. It was Tom Telesco's fault. It's the defense's fault. So I'm not saying Justin Herbert's perfect, but he's been strapped with 2 bad head coaches. Now he's on his 3rd. We'll see how Harbaugh does. Obviously, he has a really good track record. Kellen Moore didn't end up being much of an upgrade over Joe Lombardi at offensive coordinator, and their defense has stunk. Like Brandon Staley was supposed to be like this defensive prodigy, and the defense got worse every year that he was there. And they also dealt with a ton of injuries. Like I'm not counting on Joey Bosa staying healthy all year. I would love for Derwin James to stay healthy all year, but that's definitely not a guarantee. And you look at what they have offensively now. I don't love the hire of Greg Roman at offensive coordinator. I think that was a bad hire. And who's he throwing the ball to? It's going to be Quentin Johnston, Josh Palmer, and Ladd McConkey. So I'm not drinking the Chargers Kool-Aid again. I've done it too many times, been let down. I love Justin Herbert, but I think the organization around him has constantly let him down. But no, he's not going anywhere. I think that's a good place to wrap it. Solid 40 minutes in. Like I said, if you are not already subscribed, please do that. Going to keep doing this throughout Steelers training camp, throughout the NFL season. Do at least 1 to 2 black and gold breakdown shows a week in season. Going to aim for 2. Like I said before, earlier in the summer, we'll do 1 on like Monday or Tuesday, 1 Friday or Saturday, something of that nature. But definitely going to make sure you keep getting all the Steelers content I can give you. It's not going to be daily because, like I said, with the new gig at the Sporting News, with everything behind the steel curtain, like all my work responsibilities in terms of writing, that does take up a lot of my time. And I would still enjoy, doing other stuff in life outside of, just work stuff. So I'll be doing these at least, 3 times a week-ish. As well as recording my podcast, The Pump Fake. You can catch every episode of that on the channel as well. Do I have anything to plug work-wise to go read? One Piece is in the work right now. I'm not going to dive into it too much, but once it's out, it's going to be a very cool peek behind the curtain of what goes down when contracts are negotiated. So working on putting that together right now. Going to be a very fun piece to do. And once it's out, I'll make sure to plug it everywhere because it's going to be a really good read. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do that. Again, go watch the latest episode of the Pump Fake with me and Matt Verderam, ranking our top 10 teams going into the 2024 season. So each of us made a top 10, went back and forth discussing it. So each of us made our top 10 teams. Go and watch that or listen to it wherever you get your podcast. That is the Pump Fake with Jarrett Bailey. Again, on this channel or wherever you get your podcasts. As we keep rolling through NFL training camps, Steelers training camps, all the content that I can possibly bring you, I will bring to you. One thing to go read. Go and read my piece on why the Dolphins shouldn't have paid Tua. A little bit of a video on here as well about that. So go and read that. That's on SB Nation. I don't think I have anything else to plug outside of that. Appreciate everybody for watching. Enjoy your evening. Stay safe. I'll talk to you soon. Like, subscribe, do all that fun YouTube stuff, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Take care.